Though agencies are making great strides in modernizing IT and strengthening cyber defenses, maintaining a resilient cyber posture remains a constant challenge. Across government, skills gaps and data silos continue to plague agencies' ability to mitigate threats. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to discuss ways to strengthen cybersecurity resilience within federal agencies is Felipe Fernandez, Chief Technology Officer at Fortinet Federal, and Tiina Rodrigue, Chief Information Security Officer at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Felipe and Tiina, thank you so much for joining us. And Tiina, I'd like to start with you, if I may. Can you share some ways that your organization has successfully transitioned vulnerable or legacy applications and infrastructure to the cloud? And what have been some of the lessons that you all have learned?
We have transitioned approximately 70% of our applications to the cloud. And CFPB has the blessing of not having a large legacy base. So, one of the lessons that we have learned is not just to be cloud first or cloud smart, but also to be cloud best and to ensure that the value proposition of the original brochure proves true and that we're always getting the best value for CFPB and that the functionality is as secure and as promised in the beginning. So we have taken a bit of a cloud hopping perspective where some aspects end up transitioning from cloud A to cloud B. But security and making sure that we are ground truth secure is always top of mind. And if we're as we go, we find that any given aspect needs additional countermeasures, we take our own technology bases and strengthen them, fortify them, and make them ready for the new millennium.
And then can you talk a little about how these transformations have made your agency more cyber resilient?
We were lucky in that as we moved through and into the pandemic, we were able to pivot on a dime and achieve true resiliency, both on our human front as well as our technology front. And it was, in fact, because we were cloud-based. So we have actually expanded how cloud deployed we are. That has allowed us to be more resilient so that local disruptions in infrastructure or anything along that line are not disruptive to the mission that we serve. And that way we were recently able to get the 4 millionth complaint into CFPB, and 97% of that is through cloud. The most important thing that we keep top of mind is that the majority of cloud breaches in the industry, more than 95%, are due to misconfiguration. So we take that baselining and ensuring that things are created securely as our personal mission and drive. And so that we ensure that not only the initial adoption, but every adoption within it is assessed and made secure as we go. And as we encounter vulnerabilities, most of the time, thankfully with FedRAMP, those are patched by the cloud provider themselves. But if there's something on our side of the responsibility matrix, we make sure to do it same day, if not sooner, so that we truly have zero trust all the time.
And then Felipe, resiliency, to put simply, is kind of the ability to anticipate, withstand, and recover from a cyber attack. And I know that oversimplifies it, but I'm curious from your perspective, how does an integrated architecture really address these resiliency goals?
Good question. I think I'd like to go back to the use case that Dr. Rodrigue actually brought up, was an agency moving to the cloud and testing new cloud applications, delivery models for critical services or just important services for their personnel or the broader public. is a really big project. And as was pointed out, depending on the cloud service provider, the amount of controls or the controls that they are taking control of and the ones that the agency has to accept risk for or actually mitigate themselves are change from application to application. And therefore it really puts a really important stress on the cybersecurity tools and the cybersecurity architectures and policies that an agency has adopted to enable this adaptive movement between productivity applications or any other application that they could utilize. So when you consider cyber resilience, you need to take into account the ability to adapt and respond and be aware of threats for all of these changes that are occurring. That way, agencies are not slowed down by the desire for change or the inherent risks of moving to a new application. So cyber resilient architecture is one that allows agencies or users of it to really take their cybersecurity controls, their risks and policies, and be as adaptive to change as the application changes or as the cloud changes, any platforms, as service providers change. We know that occurs as well. So, cloud service providers, managed service providers are all taken into account into the changes of the cybersecurity architecture. If all that's integrated, then agencies should be really confident in moving swiftly as fast as they need to, as fast as the mission requires.
And Tiina, can you add your perspective of the role architecture plays, especially for someone in your position?
For my position, the way I like to think of the architecture and resilience is that we get better or stronger through this adversity. So ensuring that we have a core foundation for execution and that we are, with each iteration, making the architecture more scalable and more able to adapt to what the mission brings to us is a critical feature of it. I like to use a phrase that my CIO uses, which is that it's future proof, in that we're not only building the foundation for today, but that it also will serve well into the future. If I were to say that more conversationally, we always look to bet on the right horse, to look for things that have been durable in the past and extensible into the future and can leapfrog with quantum cryptography and all of those aspects that are foreseeable, knowable, and that we're stronger because we have been thoughtful.
And then my last question is really for both of you, and I'll start with you, Tiina. With the focus on your agency's most sensitive data and applications and systems, how are you prioritizing the defense of these assets and taking steps to ensure they're increasingly resilient as you move into the future?
The way we are taking steps is to leverage defense in depth and to ensure that regardless of which aspect, that we maintain a zero trust posture and to continually microsegment and ensure that what we're producing is protected at every level, so that whether it's physical all the way up through layer 8, that we are protected. And yes, I use layer 8 on purpose because honestly, what we have found is human behavior trumps everything. And so ensuring that our workforce is developed is hat in hand part of what we have to do humbly to ensure that our architectures are well served by the people and that the people are able to accomplish what they need to.
I appreciate your adding that new layer to the stack. It's probably the most important and variable one. Felipe, as you look more broadly at federal agencies, what else would you recommend to help prioritize defenses and again, take steps to ensure resiliency moving into the future?
Layer 8 being top of mind, of course, and technical controls that are implemented to alleviate some of the issues that can stem from that are very important. And also you see agencies and industry working together to address those. But on top of that, software development and the use of technology in general is a very difficult challenge. There are lots of dependencies. And of course, there are just an unlimited amount of things that need to be addressed and solved for. However, what we must also continue to do is prioritize these risks and challenges and make sure that we are looking at making the most significant impact with whatever is looking to be taken on. So what I like to see from agency and industry right now is really getting down to the facts of, let's say vulnerabilities, for example, prioritizing those, which ones are actually, exploitable and actually can be addressed and make sense for an agency to devote resources to. So attack surface management, things like that. And bringing in at least, I would say, raising the conversation or turning everything into a conversation rather, to make sure that we're addressing things that make the most sense.
Fantastic. Well, Tiina Rodrigue and Felipe Fernandez, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share your respective insights and give us a better view of what's happening at the CFPB to really continue to become more cyber resilient. So thank you both very much for joining us.